Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Once again, it is late. I'm filming at midnight. I'm absolutely exhausted. First things first, I'm going to apologise for the lack of videos this week. I have been throwing my energy into something else, and that was preparing for my driving theory test, which I am very, very excited to say that I passed. I was very nervous about it, and you know, I'm glad it's kind of out the way. I'm one step closer to being able to drive and being able to take Kyra on adventures, and it feels long past overdue because, you know, I'm nearly 29 and only just learning, but the point is I passed today and I'm very, very happy, so thank you all for your patience as I did that. Today we are going to be looking at the female dating strategy subreddit. Now this is one that I made a video on just over 2 years ago now, and back at the time I critiqued the hell out of it. I was probably a little bit harsh, but looking back, it was really, really rough, and some of the posts were really, really problematic. The post at the time told women that the man should always pay for dates and should be responsible for, and I quote, significantly more than half of the expenses in the relationship. Sorry, Kyra's making her bed in the bedroom, it's way past her bedtime. FDS at the time also said that women should withhold sex in relationships, and they were completely against the whole concept of consensual BDSM. They also encouraged women to date multiple men at a time up until the moment when they got an actual proposal from one of them. Basically, you're single until there's a ring on it. Yeah. At the time, it was very, very just like anti-man, and mostly it was just spreading the kind of advice that was really, really harmful for everyone involved. I can understand maybe where some of their advice was coming from, but that absolutely does not mean that I agree with it or agreed with it, and I just saw so many problems with it. But that was 2 years ago, and I've been seeing FDS pop up more and more and more on Reddit recently, and I started thinking, oh my god, has it got worse? So I decided to revisit the subreddit and see what has changed in the last 2 years. And honestly, I came into planning this video thinking that I would be critiquing the hell out of it again. I was thinking this was going to be like another sexist subreddit full of really like toxic attitudes and harmful things. I was thinking this was going to be like another sort of femcells video but worse. And shockingly, that's not what this video is. I actually think that in the last 2 years, the whole community on female dating strategy has got better. There has been significant improvement in the attitudes of the people using that subreddit. I'm genuinely pleasantly surprised. Now, I don't think it's perfect. I still think they have some problematic ideologies. I still think there are a few problematic posts, but on the whole, there has been a vast improvement. There's way more of a focus now on actually helpful things, like sharing red flags women need to look out for, and how to spot abusive relationships and how to avoid them and how to leave them. There's more content about women just sharing their good and bad dating stories with each other, and there's more content of women just supporting each other instead of just mindlessly hating on men or manipulating men, you know? And now, while I still don't agree with everything they promote, I still think there are some bad double standards on there. I still think there's some bad advice on there, but I will say that on the whole it's got a lot better, and the kinds of content on that subreddit are far more mixed than they were 2 years ago. And that's what I kind of want to cover today and look at some of the current content on there. I want to take a look at the top ranked posts of all time, which should give us an idea of what the majority of the community are really interested in and what their overall beliefs are. We'll take a look at some of the sort of like go-to pinned posts and the FAQ posts and that kind of thing to see what the general vibe of the subreddit is that they want to put out and what messages they think best represent them. And then we are also going to take a look at some of the most recent posts just because I think they're interesting and they give us an idea of where the subreddit is at right now at this moment as of December 2021. And with that very kind of brief overview out the way, let's jump into having a look at some of the content. So let's take a look at some of the top posts of all time, and these are the posts that have the most upvotes. So we're talking literally tens of thousands of upvotes. So these things are very, very popular on the subreddit. this is the kind of content people most like on there, and I think it's quite representative of what a lot of the people on that subreddit think. And these are actually really, really good quality posts I think are really useful for women. Like this one says, I don't know what 14-year-old girl needs to see this, but block that 18-year-old boy you're talking to. You aren't mature for your age, he's preying on you, end of conversation. Fantastic advice that people need to hear, that young girls need to hear. Brilliant. Another one here, quoting, but the age of consent is 16. Yeah, for 16-year-olds to consent with other 16-year-olds, not 25-year-olds, weirdo. And this has the title, Say It Louder for These Predatory Men. So again, looking out for young women, calling out actual predators, calling out people who do take advantage of naive young girls. I think this is fantastic content. I have no complaints about this at all. This one has a title that says women are 6 times more likely to end up divorced if they're diagnosed with cancer or MS than if their male partners were facing the same illness. And it's a, I believe, tweet that says, I was taught in nursing school that when women are diagnosed with breast cancer and start treatment to prepare them for divorce, men cheat during postpartum. Nobody's more single than a man with a newborn. Men leave women at their most vulnerable. But what kind of love is that? So I understand that some people, probably mostly men, read things like this and think, oh, they're man-hating, oh, they're thinking the worst of all men. But honestly, no, I think this is like a kind of good warning for women to like be aware of the kinds of men they're with and be aware of kind of what kind of lifestyle they choose. It's kind of a warning not to be too overly dependent on your partner no matter who he is and how great he seems. I think this is the kind of stuff that it is important for women to talk to other women about, so it doesn't come as a shock if it happens, so we know we have support networks if it happens and that kind of thing, you know? Another one here is keep your friends safe. When me and the girls go clubbing, we have a hand signal. So, you know, if you're in a loud bar and a guy's talking to you, like your friends go up and you have a hand signal being like, yeah, he's okay, no, get me away from him, that kind of thing. This kind of stuff I think is genuinely really helpful advice for women, and making sure that you tell other people and kind of like pass on this education, say, hey, like, you know, have this with your friends, be safe, look after yourselves. I don't see any problems with this kind of content, and I think as a female dating strategy, it's a really, really good thing to have. I think this is the kind of quality post that women do need to be seeing. However, it's not all like this, unfortunately. On a slightly less positive note, I want to focus on some of the more lengthy, wordy text posts that are kind of pinned to this subreddit that are on the FAQ pages, because these are where I'm currently seeing most of the problems. Not as many problems as I was seeing 2 years ago, but some that are definitely worth a lot of critique. This one, for example, this is from 2 years ago, so you know, bear that in mind when it was written. This is a post on moving in with a boyfriend. And just to give you a few highlights, because there's a lot to this, I'll leave the text on screen if you want to pause and have a proper read, but I'll just read out a few choice segments. Basically, in summary, don't do it, sis. The moment you move in with a boyfriend is the moment you lose leverage in the relationship. You're giving up your independence in exchange for no commitment from him, and you're setting yourself up to waste your time as a forever girlfriend. Here's why you need to wait until there's a ring on your finger before you even think about living with a man. So again, these are the issues that I was seeing 2 years ago, where it's a lot of like, oh, have leverage, do this, manipulate him into this, and it's all very transactional, and it kind of takes the humanity and the love out of relationships. I'm not a fan of it. If he's serious about you and doesn't want to lose you, he will propose. If he's unsure but wants to cohabitate anyway, he's testing you. You don't need to be tested, sis. You're a high-value woman. And we'll get onto this high-low value thing in a minute, because I have lots of problems with that. But yeah, I think cohabiting is a test for both people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think it's a test in the way that this poster seems to think. I think it's like hey, let's see if we're compatible long term and to build a life together. That's what I think cohabiting's for, and I don't think there's a problem with that. They go on saying, it's a waste of your time to move in with a non-serious man. Many men are happy to have you be their forever living girlfriend without ever seriously committing to you. This is a major waste of your time and energy to sink years of your life into a man who is never going to commit to you in the first place. Plus, consider the emotional fallout of having a serious relationship unravel. It takes time to heal yourself, make peace, and then build yourself up to date again. Which is true, but you can't say that it's not a committed relationship and it is a serious relationship. You can't have like the worst of both and expect me to take it seriously. Like, I think living with someone is a big commitment. Asking someone to live with you is showing you're committed to them. Just because it's not a legal marriage, that doesn't mean it's not a serious commitment. I think what that means to you comes down to you as an individual and your partner as an individual. Some people may take living together way more seriously than other people. Some people may take marriage way more seriously than other people. Like, for me personally, I don't necessarily think marriage is a big deal. I'm not sure I'd ever want to be legally married. I like the idea of like some kind of commitment ceremony as like an emotional thing. I commit to you and I love you kind of thing, but I don't think legal marriage is necessarily an ideal thing, and it's definitely not my end goal. So I don't know what this subreddit would make of me with that attitude. I just find it's a little outdated. Other things just scream like red flags to me, like, you're giving up your privacy and independence. For what? To save a few bucks on rent and see if he cleans the toilet? Like, I get it at like the start of a relationship. Like, I love having my own space. I love having my independence. I love living by myself. And I've said since Dan, like, it would take a hell of a lot for me to give up this and living alone and the independence I have. But if you want marriage, but not to give up your, I don't know, I'm struggling to put this into words why I think it's an issue. They want marriage, which is essentially you are going to be giving up some level of independence and privacy. But you'll only do that for someone marrying you, not who's committed to you in another way. Help me put into words why I'm finding this an issue. It's really hard to explain. It feels wrong, and I can't quite articulate why. It's a nightmare to move out. Well, it's a nightmare to move out of anywhere. You lose power. He's got you right where he wants you. Your bills and rent are combined. You've adopted a dog together. You cook dinner with him 3 nights a week. Sounds cozy, right? Except he's not your husband. He's just a guy sleeping next to you, sharing your Netflix account, and it's going to be really, really hard to walk away the next time he does something unacceptable. He's got you pinned down, and you've severely limited your leverage by combining households with him. It's not so easy to walk away when everything's intertwined. True, but it's even harder to walk away from marriage. Hi, gorgeous girl. One of the things I really appreciated was when I realised I needed to break up with Dan, like, when was it now? Like 3 years ago? Like, we're talking a while. I was very, very grateful that when I realised that it wasn't working and I needed to break up with him, I was so grateful that we weren't married and there were no legal things we had to deal with. It was just a matter of me moving out. That was all. Like, and I don't regret the fact that we lived together and built a life together. That was wonderful for the time and it worked at the time. But I think they're forgetting that what they think is like too much freedom for a man is just as much freedom for them, and they might need it as well. It's okay for them to test out their partner and make sure he's right for them and living together's right for them. That kind of testing works both ways, and that's okay. Not even testing, more like trialing? Getting to know someone? What's the right choice of word there? There are other things, like on this different post, there's a bit that says, like when you're first dating a man, be girlfriend material. Make it expensive to take you out to filter out low effort men. I don't like this. Accepting drink dates will not yield you men who are looking for relationships, and it will place you in the category of fun girl instead of girlfriend/wife. Again, this is such a narrow, outdated view of what a wife is, of what people are looking for long term. I would much rather go for drinks with someone and have a giggle and get a little tipsy and have fun and relax that way when I'm first getting to know someone than have this kind of like high pressure dinner date that's a little too formal for me. This just doesn't really take into account the fact that there are lots of different kinds of people. And you don't have to be spending a lot of money on someone to show that you're serious about them. It's quite middle class, isn't it? This idea that, oh, you must have money to be worthy. You need to spend money to be worthy. No, some of the best dates I've had have just been like, oh, we'll take Kyra on a walk to the park. You know, something like that costs no money, but it showed he was interested and he made an effort, and that meant a lot to me, and we just had a good time and clicked and connected. And that meant way more to me than people who've like dropped a crap ton of money on some like fancy cocktails but I had no chemistry with, you know? It's so weird. Like, if you've met a man socially and he asked you out on a date, Requiring that he take you out to dinner will call for more financial investment on his part, which is one of the ways you can tell if a man is serious about you. No, it's one of the ways you look like a gold digger. Plenty of men offer drink dates because it's a low financial investment on his part, and it allows him to see as many women as possible. Okay, but that means if you get a second date, he's actually serious about you. If he's got a ton of women to pick from and he picks you, that must mean you have a connection. I want someone to pick me because I'm right for them, not because I'm the only option they have, you know? Remember that a lot of men do drink dates because they know alcohol smooths the way for sexual encounters. If you're worried about that, simply don't drink. You can go on a drink date and just have soft drinks. There's nothing wrong with that. That said, there are some good bits of advice like this, which is about staying safe. Don't let any clown pick you up from your house or know where you live or work. Keep social media private and have minimal social presence. If you're meeting on dating apps, be super suspicious. Don't give them your full name. People can discover a lot about you by doing a Google search or background check. Always tell a friend where you are and who you're with. I kind of understand that need to want to protect yourself, and I think that's fair, but I also think it's fair to expect like a certain level of transparency on both parts. Like, I'm quite wary of men after everything with Johnny. One of the reasons I reported him to the police is because there's this law in the UK called Clare's Law where you can kind of like do a background check on, for example, someone you're dating or someone you work with or someone you're just worried about, and it will tell you if they have any convictions for domestic violence or sexual assault or things like that. And again, one of the reasons that I did call the police about Johnny's abuse was because I am terrified for whoever he dates next or might be currently dating, because he's gonna seem nice at first and he's gonna flatter them and he'll probably tell stories of his crazy ex or exes or whatever, because that's what he did with me. He made out like it was everyone else's fault. Sonna was the one who abused him. Claire was crazy and insecure. Blah, 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 blah. Meg had a coke problem, blah, blah. Like, these are all the things he told me, where, in truth, he was the one who'd been arrested several times for physically assaulting Sonna. He was the one who cheated on Claire and physically and emotionally abused her for 7 years. He was the one with the coke problem and Meg dumped him over it. Like, I didn't speak to Sonna, but I spoke to the other women and they told me firsthand. I've now learnt that you can't necessarily trust everything that a man says, and that sometimes you do need to check these things out for yourself. And it's like a thing, it's a rule I have now where, like, I'm not going to go on a date with someone unless I know their name and I've done a quick Google search, and if there's any red flags, I will look them up with Clare's Law. I will check if they've got any criminal convictions. Before I get serious with anyone, I will be looking them up and checking for that kind of thing, because I don't want to get hurt again, emotionally or physically. So while I understand this rule here for, like, you know, protect yourself, blah blah blah, I think it's also fair for whoever you're going on a date with to expect a little honesty from you and expect things like for you to tell them your full name and whatever, because they may want to do those background checks as well, because I don't know, I think it works two ways. Then there were posts like this which I felt a little personally attacked by, and I don't know if that means there are things in myself I need to readdress, or there are things in this post I want to critique. So this is a complaint about strong, independent career women, or the kind of pick-me women, as they like to say. So they say, let's discuss the strong, independent career women pick-me and why she never wins. On the surface, the characteristics of strong and independent seem endearing and something most should aspire to. These types of women in society are seen as driven, ambitious, confident, and most of all, she don't need no man. Because she's been seen to have it together, men will attempt to flatter her by complimenting her drive, ambition, and quest to provide. Since this type of pick-me is proud of her coins, she won't mind paying 50-50 on the first date, and may sometimes offer to pay the whole bill in order to flex that she got her own in front of the man she's out with. The fact is, men have been taught to view women as less than by society. So when a woman pulls out her wallet to pay for a date, to him, it shows that even the most successful women will still happily be his doormat and mummy, most likely implicitly taught by his mother that he never detached from, or other coddling female family members that have paid his way through life. Later in the relationship, this type of pick-me will continue to foot the bill for almost all things inside the relationship, while her trash bin boyfriend collects her dues. Later it says, men do not see this type of woman as a wife. They see her as a stepping stool to his dream girl. Most men will remain in a relationship with this type of pick-me purely based off the fact she has created a comfortable lifestyle for him while he pisses away his time playing video games or some other crap hobby. He will happily accept her handout while he swipes away on his Tinder profile while she's at work. Ladies, yes, it's great to have your career education money in check, but never under any circumstances allow a man that you're dating to know how much you pull, and never allude to being a strong independent woman, because on the surface it sounds good, but it's simply a calling card for the losers to flock. So I have real mixed feelings about this. On the one hand, I don't think there's anything wrong with being strong and independent, like it says, and I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with you wanting to treat your date on occasions and pay for things and show your appreciation that way. But at the same time, yeah, the older I get, the more I'm finding that sometimes men just don't really see me as relationship material. And it leaves me thinking like, well, is there a problem with me? Is there something inherently wrong with me? And it does kind of make me wonder if there is like a type of woman that most men see as like wife or girlfriend material, and I'm just not it for whatever reason. So posts like this do get me thinking. But then on the other hand, I'm like, well, if men are looking for someone that they can just kind of like pick up and look after and pay for, essentially, then that's never going to be me. So I'd rather be single and myself than girlfriend material to the wrong person, you know? So I have mixed feelings about posts like this, and I do think there's maybe a little more truth in them than I saw like 2 years ago. But on the other hand, I still don't agree with it, and I wouldn't ever want to give up like these fundamental parts of myself just to keep a man. Do you know what I mean? And then you get some like this, which are just like horrific and harmful to everyone involved. You must at all times trigger the male mate guarding instinct. Keep your options open, always. Instead of women desperately pursuing a relationship with a single male, you maintain several which are beneficial to you in different ways. Although at this stage, you shouldn't allow sexual access. I hate these kinds of rules and stuff. Oh, it's so ridiculous. And impersonal as well, isn't it? Go on dates where you're likely to encounter a lot of male mate competition. Sporting events are at the top of the list, but this can be any event or activity where men are likely to be peacocking for females and posturing for other men. Sexual access is reserved for male or males who have demonstrated good character and significant investment. There is no need to abide by an artificial 90-day timeline. You withhold sexual access until you can safely assure the encounter will be to your tangible benefit. I hate this transactional way of thinking. Like, it's sexist and misogynistic, and it's like feeding into these stereotypes of like women don't want sex, women want like money and commitment, and only men enjoy sex, and so women use sex as a bargaining tool. It's outdated and it's stupid and it's wrong and it's harmful. So it perpetuates stuff like that, and then there's the whole monogamy is for marriage. Unless a man expresses an explicit desire for marriage with a timeline in mind, you should not be monogamous. Again, monogamy benefits men, not women, which I thoroughly disagree with, and oh god, I have so many things to say. All that said, there are some posts in here that I do think are pretty great, and some which are really empowering. For example, this one which tells women to go out there and be a queen, and it defines like what a queen is. Like, a queen knows her worth. She knows that she's worthy of the best things that life has to offer. Her confidence is unshakable. When she experiences setbacks and makes mistakes, just like anyone else, she believes wholeheartedly in her ability to not only bounce back, but to grow from the experience and become even better, even more capable. A queen is aware of her greatest potential and fulfills it. A queen only couples with an equal. A queen never debases herself for another. A queen never shies away from the truth, no matter how difficult the truth is to swallow. I think things like this and posts like this are really empowering to women on the whole, and they are kind of giving people the confidence boost they need, and they're really encouraging in a good way. So I don't really have complaints about stuff like this. Other ones like this, they have these great posts like educating women about abusive relationships and what they are and how to recognize them and how to get out of them. So this one is a post that says, every day I read multiple posts on Reddit about women being abused by their significant other or men in their life. Most of them don't even realize they're being abused, which is absolutely true. I didn't until it was pointed out to me by another woman. I was gaslit and lied to and made to feel like crap so often, and told it was all my fault, or that it was all in my head, or that I was the one who needed to change medication so he'd stop, throwing things at me. Stuff like that, stupid. Like, I didn't call it abuse until someone else pointed out that it was. Because I was like, no, I'm too strong for this. I wouldn't be abused. I'm too independent for this. I'm too educated for this. I won't be abused. But I was. And so I think posts like this that point out these abuse tactics and basically say, hey, this can happen to anyone, are really, really important. So this one points out things like, like strategies of abusers, like Name calling, they'll blatantly call you stupid, a loser, or words too awful to repeat here. Character assassination, they usually involve the word always. You're always late, wrong, screwing up, disagreeable, and so on. Basically, they say you're not a good person. I hear that all the time. Public embarrassment, dismissiveness, insults of your appearance, belittling your accomplishments, putting down your interests, threats, and so on and so on and so on. And there's like a whole post going into it and giving examples and stuff. And I think this is really, really good quality information that does need to be out there and that will help more women. Others I have mixed feelings about. So there's this one post that's like breaking down myths, which is, in this case, men telling you you'll max out at 30 is their biggest cope. The post says, the reality, we as women practice self-care in our appearance. We take meticulous care of our skin, hair, and bodies. We're careful about what we eat and we exercise regularly. Most of us have had skincare routines since we were in middle school. We've always managed to make time to take care of our appearance, even between our education, careers, and hobbies. That being said, at 30 and beyond, all that hard work pays off for us big time. Males, on the other hand, the average 30-year-old male already has a receding hairline, his face has begun to bloat from the excessive alcohol usage and poor diet, a flat tire is already beginning to form around his midsection, he has premature wrinkles, sun damage, and uneven skin tone because he washes with Axe 3-in-1 hair, face, and body wash every day, and has never picked up a proper skincare product in his entire life. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that, but it's the Axe 3-in-1 thing. Anyway, throw in erectile dysfunction from excessive pornography consumption throughout his youth. Voila, there you have it, folks. The male wall. Now, on the one hand, I think it's hilarious to turn this kind of typical insult back on men and be like, no you. Because I get it all the time. I'm told, blah, 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 the wall's approaching. You're going to be hideous in 14 months. Blah, 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 no one will want you. No one, blah, blah, blah. You know, I get it all the time. And I think it's kind of funny to be like, well, actually, no you. I do think that's funny. I think some of the points that they make here, like the Axe 3-in-1 hair, face, body wash, I think that's hilarious because it's very true and it's funny and I like it. That said, as much as I have a giggle at this, let's be honest, it's not really a helpful post, is it? And it's wrong for many of the same reasons that it's wrong when men say it about women. This idea of there being a wall at all for any gender is harmful and wrong and damaging, and as much as I have a giggle, it's not necessarily the kind of content I would want to promote anywhere for any period of time said about anyone. So, like I say, mixed feelings. So they're the kind of core posts on the subreddit, the sort of FAQ stuff. And now, just to end this video, I want to take a very quick look at some of the most recent female dating strategy posts, which, again, surprised me by not being too awful on the whole. So many of them were really useful and relatable, and I had very few complaints. So these are all ones posted within like the last 24 hours of when I got these screenshots yesterday. My fantasy isn't for a man to protect me, my fantasy is not to be threatened by men in the first place. Absolutely, I have no problems with this, I relate to it completely, and I think this is a really important thing for women to talk about. The poster says, I feel like men have this misconception that our biggest romantic dream is to have a big, strong, emotionally constipated man around to protect us from the world. In reality, men are women's biggest and most dangerous threat. This is especially true for romantic partners. My biggest, wildest fantasy is to not need protection from men at all. I dream of a world where men who hate women just leave us the hell alone. And a commenter replied with, I once had a weird argument with an anti-feminist. He said that women are nothing without men, and if all men are gone one day, who's going to protect you? And I was like, protect me from who? I was never catcalled, molested, or abused by a woman. And again, this is not to say that women don't abuse other women and that, you know, abuse doesn't happen within same-sex partnerships. It's not saying anything like that. It's just pointing out that, honestly, the majority of violence against women is from men. The majority of sexual assaults against women is from men. So it kind of does make a good point, and I think, again, discussing these things, talking about them, sharing experiences with other women is a really, really useful and important thing to do. Another post points out that being sexually desired does not equal being respected. It writes, please remember this. A man will happily pay for a woman's OnlyFans. A man will happily pay a woman to objectify her for a few hours. And a man will happily string a woman along for days, months, or years if that means getting access to her body. Just because a man wants you sexually does not mean he respects you. 99% of the time, he doesn't. Look at all the men who tell themselves and proudly proclaim happily they'd smash an SW her, but would never dream of making her their girlfriend or wife her up. And I get that this seems like a little bit cynical and dark and whatever, but again, I kind of think there is truth in it, and it's useful to talk about and important to talk about, and I don't really have any problems with this kind of post, I'll be honest. And then other ones, like, this is just like some little memes posted. This one, for example, saying like, this one, for example, has a man saying, "You want to pay for the first date? Is this a feminist thing?" And then the woman saying, "I'm actually terrified that if you pay, you might think I owe you sex. Don't worry though, I'm definitely over all my sexual trauma. Anyway, what's your favourite movie?" I think we've all been there on a date, haven't we? Haven't we, girls? Oh my god. And yeah, this is the thing that I, as a woman, have thought about on a date before. You get this thing where, like, especially if you're not really, like, into the guy, I kind of feel like I have to pay more than if I'm not, because I'm like, oh god, what if he expects something from me? I can't let him think that I owe him anything. Like, and it's a scary thing, and it's a thing women have to talk about and think about and deal with. And again, I think it's important to discuss with other women, and these kind of posts, they're relatable and they're good and they're important. And yeah, anyway, I think I've been talking a lot and I'm very, very tired, so I don't know if I'm making any sense at all, but that's where I'm going to end this video today. I was pleasantly surprised by the changes I've seen in this subreddit and how it's not as harmful as it used to be. I was really, really, really critical of it 2 years ago, and while I'm still critical of a lot of the same ideologies, it seems that they aren't quite the focus of the subreddit anymore. It seems that they aren't the bulk of the posts. It seems that it's actually more of like a genuine support network for women and kind of a fight against misogyny, especially in the dating world. And for those particular posts, I don't have any complaints, and I think they're a really good thing. But maybe that's just my opinion. I know I've had a lot of experiences over the last 2 years that have shaped and changed and altered my opinion of dating and men in general, so maybe that's also kind of playing into it a little bit, but I don't know. I'm human at the end of the day, and that's kind of what happens. Our experiences shape our values, I guess, and how we view things. Anyway, I don't know, I'm ranting. Please let me know what you thought of this down in the comments, and I really do mean that, especially if you've seen my original female dating strategy video. Please let me know kind of what your thoughts are, and if you think the subreddit has changed or evolved all over the last 2 years. And yeah, leave a comment down below. If you're new here, it'd be great if you subscribe. I'm not always this sleepy, I promise. It's just been a very, very long week. But thank you for watching. Thank you for being patient with me and taking your time. And I appreciate you all watching a hell of a lot. So thank you, and I'll see you again really, really soon.